We just want to get on here because so many of you have been concerned about how we're doing, and we just wanted to let you know that we no longer work at Daystar.
The Lamb family has been at the fore of what has been one of the biggest gospel networks in the world, with their activities at Daystar Television Network. Many have marked the family as a symbol of hope and an ideal community. However, things seem to be going south lately, with growing resentment across the board. Even recently, there have been accusations of abuse, which had pushed Jonathan Lamb to pull his family from the network. In the face of it all, Jimmy Evans has strived to be the voice of reason, but all his efforts so far seem to backfire. Before we get into the whole family drama, let's get a view of who Evans is and the role he has to play in all these. Jimmy Evans has left quite a mark on the world of preaching and writing, securing him as one of the most respected voices to date within the Christian ministry. With his message of faith, healing, and restoration of relations, over time he developed an excellent standing as one of the sharpest visionaries and a highly effective communicator, writing one best-selling book after another. The impact of his ministry has reached across generational lines to speak to untold numbers through his teachings of God's transformative love and guidance. It is from these deeply personal experiences of his faith that Evans moved into ministry. He will often share now how his marriage with Karen had some challenging times. These hard times proved to be his crucible for spiritual growth and the amazing turnaround of their relationship. The experiences only deepened his understanding of God's grace and redemption, further fanning the flame in his heart to help others sail through life and its complexities. Evans merges biblical scholarship and authenticity in his messages. It would seem this man has the innate gift of keeping an audience, be it through congregational messages, conference settings, or even television. Most of his messages are centered around marriage, family, and personal transformation. His mantra is that good relationships form the foundation of a good Christian life. Evans started Marriage Today, which to him was a ministry that would give couples all they needed to make their marriage successful. Over the years, through several seminars, workshops, and popular television programs, Marriage Today has reached out to millions of people around the world. It has grown as a respected resource for marital advice and spiritual development. His writing also carries the same clarity and insight into spiritual issues as characterized in his preaching, and conveys the ideas to every level of readers. A good example would be his best-selling book, Marriage on the Rock. In it, he put into words how a marriage should be understood and given a good foundation. He gives the couples ways through which they can further strengthen their bonding. Marriage on the Rock has become a foundational book to so many, and some have used it even as curriculum in churches and through marriage counseling sessions. Probably one of his most impactful works is The 4 Laws of Love, which is also full of much of his experiences in this area. Some timeless principles for a healthy and successful marriage are discussed within. Here, Evans has shown how priorities, pursuit, partnership, and purity take the reader down the pathway toward love designed by God. The practical insight with spiritual depth has turned the book into a manual for couples who plan on deepening their love and faith. In Tipping Point, The End is Here, he looks at biblical prophecy from the point of view of what is happening in the world today. It is one of those books that will get one to take a serious look at the signs of the time and get ready for the future with hope and faith. Evans' ability to take deep theological concepts and translate them into something to which all can relate has earned him respect as a voice in this arena. Besides preaching and penning books, Evans has tapped into the modern age by expanding his ministry to include podcasts, online courses, and social media, which make his teachings more accessible than ever. The media presence allows him to reach a worldwide audience that may not be afforded an opportunity to attend church in a conventional setting. His approach to innovative ministry underlines his adaptability and commitment to meeting people wherever they are. The evidence of Jimmy Evans' works is rooted in scores of stories and testimonials from individuals and couples whose lives have been transformed by his teachings. Many say he saved their marriages, restored faith in them, or helped them get through rough phases of life more decisively. His legacy speaks volumes of hope, healing, and empowerment. Jimmy Evans' life is a living testament to the transformational power of faith. With a reputation for wisdom, compassion, and authenticity, he inspires and uplifts people from all walks of life. He had also spread his influence via the Daystar Network. The Daystar television network, through its wide-ranging programming and a strong commitment to spreading the gospel, is one of the largest and most influential Christian television networks in the world today. Founded by Marcus and Joni Lamb, what began as a small network has grown into an international platform with millions of viewers. Marcus and Joni Lamb were the power couple that constituted Daystar, and the couple envisioned reaching across the world with a message of hope and salvation. Marcus was born in Cordell, Georgia, into the family of a pastor. At a tender age, he surrendered to the ministry and began preaching in his teenage years. Joni, on her part, comes from Greenville, South Carolina. Much like Marcus, she had similarly grown with the same ambition and desire to minister to the needs of others. It would be in South Carolina at a revival that the two would finally meet, bound together by faith and vision, and joined in a relationship that would shake the Christian broadcasting landscape. The Lambs married in 1982 and promptly began ministry with focus. First, they began working with a number of small television ministries to learn the ropes and flesh out a vision for a global network. In 1993, the couple founded Daystar Television Network, then a very small enterprise with just a handful of employees, located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. Operating on very minimal resources and the almost insurmountable challenge of breaking into the fiercely competitive world of television broadcasting, Marcus and Joni were ever committed to their call. Their partnership was an example to many. They would further discuss their relationship and how they would face life and ministry challenges together. This openness and authenticity, it seems, made them more relatable and more trustworthy in the sight of their audience in the Christian community. Performances by Lambs showed their unity and commitment towards faith. Couples wanting to base their life on faith and love viewed them as role models. This core vision reflected in the nature of the network was to make reflections representative of diversity, reaching all. Therefore, there was a representation consisting of programs from sermons by famous preachers to praise and worship songs, from current affairs shows, talk shows to other programs showing interest in society at large. One of the central figures who has been associated with Daystar's programming is Jimmy Evans. Evans was associated with Daystar through his ministry Marriage Today, which had aired on the network. His teachings on building strong, God-centered marriages fit right in with the Lambs' focus on relationships and family. Jimmy Evans added to the network's exposure due to his practical and biblically based advice that helped people from all walks of life. Everyday problems working couples experience were often discussed in most of his shows, and he would present a solution based on scripture and personal experience. As Evans's involvement with Daystar grew, so did he become a familiar voice heard on the network, better situating it as a place for spiritual development and renewal. Today, this network is aired in more than 200 countries in multiple languages, placing it as one of the largest Christian television networks in the world. Its programs are accessible via satellite, cable, online streaming, and mobile apps to ensure that viewers can tune in from virtually anywhere. The network's global reach reflects its founders' commitment to making the gospel accessible to as many people as possible. However, Daystar faced a turning point with the death of Marcus Lamb in November 2021. He died after complications with COVID-19, leaving behind a legacy of faith and innovation. His passing shook the very core of Daystar and the greater world of Christian broadcasting. The network has moved on under the leadership of Joni Lamb and the people Marcus helped build up. Joni has remained strong, stating that their shared vision would indeed go forward, and this is an intention she pursued with zeal. Therefore, the commitment to quality programming placed Daystar under her guidance and care for continued growth in outreach and influence. The Lamb's legacy is seen in the hundreds of thousands of lives Daystar has touched through its programming. Testimonies have streamed in from all walks of life and parts of the world, recounting how the network has impacted their faith, strengthened their relationships, and comforted them through hard times. Ongoing interest in programs such as those by Jimmy Evans testifies to Lamb's insight into building a network focused on spiritual growth and relational healing. Daystar is also a testament to the strength of the community. It was through monetary and prayer support that the contributors to the network proved pivotal in the success that was to be witnessed by the network, hence keeping the mission of the institution running. This therefore sets up Daystar to, through the shared sense of purpose and shared faith, push through the trials and onward with its initiative of spreading the gospel. Continuously committed to innovative ideas, this network promises a commitment with the incorporation of new technologies to reach beyond compare what they thought possible. Further spearheaded by innovative ideas by its leader, Joni Lamb, and also strong, powerful voices like that of Jimmy Evans, Daystar indeed turns out to be a unique brand for Christian broadcasting. Daystar's story has been all about vision, determination, and faith. From the very smallest of beginnings to a worldwide network, Daystar has been an absolute testimony to God's calling and to the might of shared vision. It was a love and faith-based relationship that built this ministry that has touched the lives of millions. However, the network has faced a series of controversies after the death of its co-founder, Marcus Lamb, resulting in scandals that left damage to the network's reputation. Marcus Lamb's death from complications arising from COVID-19 in November 2021 sent ripples of great sadness across the globe. His death saw the reins of leadership fall into the hands of his wife, Joni Lamb. As co-founder and quite a well-acknowledged figure in the network, she has been one of the most active components for many years in their network's success. Yet, less than 2 years after Marcus's death, her personal decision to move into a new chapter in her life by marrying Doug Weiss brought on quite a few controversial and dividing opinions within the Lamb family and the Daystar community. Some welcomed this marriage, yet for others it has been a source of controversy. For Joni, this is one of many ways to start over, looking out for personal happiness in the wake of a loved one being taken from her. And not everybody welcomes such a decision with greater tolerance, like her son Jonathan Lamb and his wife. Their objections combine not only their personal reservations but also their view about the timing and its implication in the family image and network reputation. Jonathan also spoke out about an issue that seemed to show a different side of the network, causing the reaction from the likes of Jimmy Evans. Jonathan and his wife had been highly influential in the operations of Daystar, but following the remarriage of Joni, they reportedly stepped away from the network. Their public disagreement with Joni involved more than personal feelings. They felt it was an insult to the memory of Marcus Lamb and the values of the ministry he founded. The family feud has spread into the open, making many wonder if Daystar's leadership is stable now and what will happen in the future with the network. Things had just about reached a boiling point when Jonathan Lamb, in a fit of anger, accused executives at Daystar of mishandling an alleged abuse case against his family. According to Jonathan, his daughter had been abused by one of the personalities on the network known as Pete, one whose face had been featured in numerous top programs. Jonathan further alleged that leadership within the network, spearheaded by the senior executives, attempted a cover-up as an avenue of evading damage to the network's reputation. He said reports of the abuse were downplayed and that the outcome left him isolated and betrayed. These are accusations, which in the public eye is the biggest blow possible against Daystar's credibility. It was a network considered exemplary for other networks to emulate. However, the accusation was on the opposite side of what the network stood for. Jonathan's stance against the network underlined a great chasm within the Lamb family and begged questions of accountability about how Daystar works. Statements countering these claims by Jonathan have also come from other top executives of the network, like Joni Lamb, in a bid to disrepute the accusations pointing to the network's rules on non-acceptance of misconduct. A statement issued in the name of Daystar said that the network had already initiated an internal investigation into this case, and it had taken partial steps in order to protect the interest of all those who were likely to be exposed to a certain kind of risk. However, all these measures emerging from the network were not enough to lend the required amount of transparency in its operations, let alone rebuild its trust with its viewers and stakeholders. Accusations waged by Jonathan polarized the community at Daystar. Most joined hands to defend the network in favor of Joni and the rest of the team, who have been engaged over decades in evangelizing the gospel and bringing forth inspirational programming. Some did join voices with Jonathan and called for accountability against Daystar leadership for treating the matter with so much levity. Over time, many of its viewers and donors had begun to question the direction and priorities of the network. Some were afraid that these personal disputes and allegations of misconduct would tarnish not only the mission of this network, but also its effectiveness. For a ministry that has earned the trust and faith of the audience, controversies present the biggest test to their integrity. Yet, with all these controversies, Daystar continued to air and expand its programs. In an attempt to change the core purpose of the network, Joni Lamb developed new ideas and partnerships, which talked about the global reach. She tried to please the viewers and the donors by assuring them that the network was concerned about transparency and standards of conduct. These controversies also brought into focus some of the weaknesses that abound in family-run leadership dynamics within ministries. Ever since then, the Daystar ministry has struggled to balance private relationships with the public and organizational responsibilities that come into play. These have been really trying times for Joni, as the legacy left by her husband seems to be facing one of the most difficult times in its history. This really has taken a lot from Daystar's reputation in people's eyes, as questions about accountability, leadership, and in what ways this so-called Christian organization handles its own matters. Jimmy Evans tried to help fix the issue when Jonathan refused to endorse Joni's marriage with Doug, but his comments, especially when he told Jonathan that he had to flow with his mother's decision no matter what, sparked more outrage over the matter. More broadly, the path that Daystar has towed since the death of Marcus Lamb puts in view how many ministries do their business and the struggles that are perhaps inherent in it. Pressures of leadership, complex family dynamics, and organizational responsibilities set an environment for conflict and controversy. How such challenges are surmounted will go a long way toward determining the legacy and effectiveness of such a ministry. The future of Daystar, one of the pioneers in Christian broadcasting, is yet to be known. But for now, its various shows are being watched by millions all over the world. The long-term viability question brings into question all the controversies regarding leadership and operations. Among the stories that came forward following the drama after Marcus's death was the objections of Jonathan Lamb to his mother remarrying. While Jonathan said publicly that the issue was a matter of a personal and spiritual nature, many people believe that the real issues have to do more with leadership and the structure of the network. This death of Marcus Lamb made it important that the network do the sensitive work of realigning the leadership. Of course, the leadership of the network passed to Joni Lamb since she was one of the considerable members of Daystar since the very beginning. The visibility she's had as a co-host and a long history of involvement with Daystar made her its face in Marcus's absence. But the prominence that Jonathan has long enjoyed, and the deep association he's had with operations there, have led some to speculate that he perhaps feels he should have been in line for the presidency upon the death of his father. When this did not happen, whispers began to circulate, suggesting that Jonathan's disapproval of Joni's remarriage might have been influenced by feelings of exclusion or disappointment over not being named president. These speculations were fueled by the timing and intensity of Jonathan's objections to Joni's personal decisions. Publicly, Lamb framed his critique in theological and moral terms, but to onlookers, It epitomized deeper divisions within the Lamb family about the direction of Daystar's leadership. If anything, the succession would prove delicate for a network as interlinked with family identity as this one. Having grown practically within the machinations of Daystar, some people even perceived Jonathan as fittingly prepared to take up his father's mantle. It therefore came perhaps as a no-brainer, but a rational move when Joni stayed on as the head. After all, she does have both experience and an audience connection. Yet, what probably came as a lopsided decision might unconsciously have brought with itself a sense of disenfranchisement for Jonathan. To further aggravate the issue was the public nature of Joni's new marriage plans. Jonathan was concerned that this was coming a few months after his father's death, and also Doug's career as an intimacy expert and history as a divorcee. While publicly, Jonathan said his objections had been based on a sense that the marriage reflected poorly upon Marcus's memory and the values of the network, critics say his discontent could be deepened by the perceived sidelining of Jonathan in the Daystar leadership. Where there is a personal tragedy, family dynamics, and a transition of leadership in the power hierarchy, all the ingredients are there to create an explosive setting of misunderstanding and conflict. On the heels of already heightened tensions, the accusations against one of Daystar's most popular hosts from Jonathan and his wife added just another layer needed to make things even worse. Jonathan said Pete had abused his daughter. He seems to say that that is an issue the network did not take seriously. In other ways, it sounded like grave accusations against the network, smearing the Daystar image before the people. In a bid to manage the situation, the network claims to have initiated an internal investigation into the accusation of abuse and clarifies its stand on issues like this, which won't protect anyone found guilty. Some fans of the network were drawn to Pete's defense, claiming he couldn't do such. Those who spoke of him pointed to him as having been a long-serving, respected, and kind man in Daystar. Colleagues and supporters alike, some very close to him, described him as an extraordinarily religious man, full of commitment to faith and ministry, adding that such character and actions did not correspond with the accusations brought against him. Further, they reiterated that such dedication to his work and community made it difficult for these things to happen. For many on the network, Pete's character and activities at Daystar spoke to his integrity. The results of the internal investigation merely vindicated their belief in a man they knew was innocent. Some supporters also questioned the motives behind Jonathan's accusations, suggesting that they might have been influenced by the ongoing family tensions and leadership disputes. Critics of Jonathan pointed out that the timing of his allegations coincided with his vocal opposition to Joni's remarriage and his dissatisfaction with the leadership transition. This overlap led some to speculate that his claims against Pete might have been part of a broader effort to challenge the network's current leadership. Others came to Jonathan's defense by purporting that he had every right to air his grievances and make his stand known. Overall, the issue has dealt a blow to the long-standing image of the network and what it stands for. Fans have kept their finger crossed as they watch the events unfold, hoping that the outcome doesn't destroy the legacy that the network has built all this while. Accusations and subsequent fallout seriously divided those at Daystar, while the loyal viewers sought ways through their spiritual leadership to make sense of what had taken place. They had questioned, on one hand, the capability of the network to handle sensitive issues like this transparently in view of the internal investigation. On the other hand, however, the public defense of Pete by colleagues and supporters underscored the complexity of taking on such allegations inside a close-knit organization. These are the controversies that really have tested Joni Lamb's ability to balance her personal grief and family dynamics with the management of a global ministry at the head of Daystar. Her remarrying was for her a deeply personal decision, but it became a flashpoint of broader tensions within the Lamb family and the network. The allegations against Pete and the response of the network have tested Daystar on its values and mission. Through it all, Daystar continued to grow and extend its reach. That the network was able to hold on to its programming and viewer engagement in the midst of such controversy speaks volumes about the resilience of the network and that of its viewers. Deep-seated tension within the Lambs family, along with unsettled questions regarding charges against Pete, creates huge obstacles toward full reconciliation and reunification. From here on, Daystar faces twin challenges, one from within its own entity in terms of divisions, and another from the public image the network is rebuilding. This was worsened by the decision from Jonathan and his wife to leave the network after years of commitment. With regard to the Lamb family, a well-defined course for the reconciliation of differences, besides a common approach toward service regarding the vision of the network, would be of great significance. What that will take is more transparency, accountability, and enforcement of the values from Daystar. Ultimately, this story is a story of faith and fortitude, along with messy leadership realities. The mission at its core has remained gospel-inspired and hopeful as the network continues to face many trials these last couple of years. Jimmy Evans, as a well-respected pastor and longtime family friend, came to help knit together the emerging divide between Jonathan Lamb and his mother Joni, who since the passing of Marcus Lamb had decided to remarry. Standing as a voice of reason and a veteran conciliator in those troubled waters, Evans called for a bridge between mother and son in understanding, a time to forgive, and a time to be unified. However, his effort, as well-intentioned as it was, turned out to be unsuccessful. Jonathan continued to oppose the remarriage of Joni on moral and spiritual grounds. While Evans wanted to present the remarriage as something personal and reasonable for Joni to do, given the need to move on, Jonathan himself saw this as a denial of values and a denigration of the legacy left by his father, Marcus. To Jonathan, this was quite sudden and off from the spiritual ideals that the family is known for. This would eventually help broaden the emotional chasm between Jonathan and his mother. Evans sought to facilitate reconciliation, but Jonathan's beliefs were not to be budged, and the breach remained. Still further tension was added by Jonathan's growing distrust of the network leadership and his feeling that his concerns were being trivialized and ignored. These were pushed to the fore by instincts of defense for his wife and children, accusing Pete, one of the influential people in the network, of abusing his daughter. Upon internal investigations with no evidence to support such accusations, Jonathan immediately cut off Pete from accessing his family. This underlined how deep this conviction was rooted in Jonathan, and how impossible it would be for any common ground to be wrought between feuding parties. Jonathan believed banning Pete was necessary for his family's protection. However, the issue still remains unclear, as there has been no evidence to condemn Pete for the alleged wrongdoings. Regardless, Jonathan had deemed it fit to keep his family away from the entirety of the network by opting out of it entirely. This has caused concern among loyal followers and has brought fear about what the future holds for the network. As the Lamb family makes their way through these challenges, many in their inner circle and the greater Daystar community would love to see resolution come through restoration, unity, and peace. This sets onlookers to the realization of how fragile it is to walk a tightrope between personal conviction and the demands that come with leading a worldwide ministry, one whose identity is so deeply set within the family. Jimmy Evans, despite one setback in the beginning, is hopeful of reconciliation. Apart from this, his guidance was supposed to be the path towards healing and mutual understanding with the help of the faith shared by the Lamb family. Hopefully, someday, some sort of middle ground will be reached where the Lambs can let bygones be bygones, both in their respect for one another and in their mutual vocation, and even Marcus's memory. As the family heads down a perhaps even rockier road, faith, forgiveness, and unity are qualities on which the Lamb family can rely. If you are a fan of the network, we would love to know what your take is on the issue. And if you believe Jonathan might be blowing things out of proportion, that will be all for this episode, and we will see you in the next one.